Juliet, and yes, I love to win. So I'll be checking out the Pass the Wire Readers Cup seminar. I'll see you there.
No matter what, there are certain places that are always the best place to be. And the Pass the Wire annual Breeders' Cup seminar has always been one of them. And that's not going to change, but this year we're going to do things a little bit differently. Yes, it's all about winning and trying to win, and who gets the key to the AMG. So what are we going to do? We're going to make a concise PDF that covers everything we normally cover in our seminars. We're still going to blast out of that gate and try and finish fastest of all. We are going to drive this thing like a fine-tuned race car, covering everything that matters. And if things work out, we're going to need a machine to count all the money so we can do some shopping at Cartier and Louis Vuitton. And if we win this battle, our significant others are going to look like this and be awfully happy. The first ever Pass the Wire annual Breeders' Cup report, a PDF specifically for you, and a private Q&A as well for everybody who rides with us. Ciao a tutti. Welcome back to another Thorograph episode of Pass the Wire TV. This week we are going to do the Fayette from Keeneland. Older horses going around 2 turns. Keeneland's winding up their full meet, which we know means one thing: the Breeders' Cup is right around the corner, just over a week away. Just over a week away. I think it's going to be a really exciting Breeders' Cup this year. The Classic is looking epic. A lot of people are talking about the rabbit in the Breeders' Cup Classic, and whether that's right, wrong, fair, unfair. And it compelled me to do something that I don't do a lot. I haven't done a lot for years, but in the past couple of weeks, I've written about 4 or 5 different articles about different topics that you could find on Pass the Wire. And I wrote one on rabbits and the history of them in thoroughbred racing, particularly in the United States. And it's more common and more frequent than you might think. Our Breeders' Cup seminar, a lot of people joining, which is great. The response is overwhelming. Thanks for all the support. But more important, it kind of lets me and us know that the work that goes into that is not unnoticed or unappreciated, and that means everything. That's just phenomenal. We love it. So thank you all. I guess we will get right into the Fayette at Keeneland. Tough competitive race. I thought it was an interesting race to do. There weren't a lot of races to choose from this particular weekend. Next weekend will be the Breeders' Cup. I'm going to try and do a Breeders' Cup race or 2. I don't know that I'm going to be able to, especially if I wind up going out there. And that's going to depend a lot on, I guess, flights and other stuff. Yes, I have a flight, but if there's like delays and craziness going on that I can't anticipate, and I don't know if anybody could really anticipate that, we might have better luck predicting the weather or the outcome of a $5,000, claiming race at Charlestown. But, with all this, TSA and air traffic controller issues, and these people, being expected to work and not get paid, tough. You know what I mean? I don't want to go and wind up stuck in a jet on a tarmac for 5 or 6 hours at all. I'd much rather stay home and watch from the best seat in the house. So I don't know. I'm going to kind of play it by ear. So hope to get there, but if I got a bad vibe about it, I don't know, And my connection flight goes through Dallas, which might not be the best place to be connecting to right now, but we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. I guess we'll pretend we're going, and then at the last minute actually make a decision. I've blown off stuff the last minute before, so it won't be like something completely out of the ordinary. The Fayette. I thought it came up pretty competitive. Let's see if the numbers can help us decipher it. And last week the Ravens run Kappa Kappa. It's funny. There's a lot of people out there that come out of the woodwork and love to bash and make comments on the channel when we're wrong. And then when you make a good call, you're right. You don't see hide nor hair with them. That's always an interesting individual to me. It's like I don't know, what are they like? Wait for that, look for that, hope for that. I don't know. I think some people could use a little bit more positivity, camaraderie in their lives. I don't know, maybe not. Whatever. To each their own. Doesn't really affect us one way or the other. We're gonna do what we do, as long as we enjoy doing it. So that's that. The Fayette. From the rail, we got Lambeth, Joe Sharp horse, and he's running 2, 3, and now 4. Only one start at 2. No, I'm sorry, 2 starts at 2. He did go forward. He progressed nicely at 3. At 2 he went 16 to 8.5. At 3 went 11.5, 7.25, 7.5, 8, 6.5. He was getting better. A little bit up and down, but at 4 he threw in some really nice races. He started at 6 3/4, 3.5, 0 1/4, very fast race. Regressed off that to a 7, then a 6, then a 4, now a 1.5. I like his progression. I like his pattern. It's a little concerning that last time he ran a significant top, he regressed. So I think it becomes a little bit of a likelihood that off another new top, he will regress again. So I like the progression, but I'm concerned about a regression. So if he does regress, goes back to a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or a 6 or something like that, probably not going to be enough to win here. Anna Marie, horse that, if I remember correctly, was on the Derby Trail and a lot of people liked. At 2, progressed okay, 11, 7, 5.5. I would say that's a nice progression for a 2-year-old. At 3, came back, didn't pass the number right away, but started at 9.5, 5.5, 8 1/4, 6. Then 15. So I think the 15 3/4 actually. So I think the 3-year-old season was certainly disappointing. What about at 4? At 4, we got an 8.5, a 4 1/4, a 19, then a 3.5, a 3 1/4. So we got a little bit of a Z and a kind of a wild Z pattern emerging, and he's cycling towards a down race off a new top. I don't like it. Bracket Buster. Bracket Buster is interesting. Why? We'll get there. 16, 16, 11 3/4. 11 3/4 is a 2-year-old. Now is a 3-year-old. What do we got? Gets faster, 5 3/4. Understandably regresses to a 12, comes back to the 5, 5 1/4, then a 2, 2 1/4, 2.5. I like his pattern a lot. I like the paired 2s. I like the fact that he jumped forward in the first start at 3 significantly, tailed off it, which he was supposed to do, but then came right back and started progressing again, and now has not tailed yet. So I would say forward-moving pattern and a very interesting pattern at that. And those 2s kind of jump out at me. Like it. Dilger. Nothing at 2, 1 start, 15 and a quarter. At 3, 15 and 3/4, 15, 7.5, 7.5, 10.5, 6 and 3/4, 3. Uh, Decent pattern. Had that one regression, but other than that, pretty much, got better. And then this year, 7.5, 3, 3, 8.25, 5, 3 and 3/4, and a 3. So he's got a nice pattern, especially if you look at his last 3 races: 5, 3 and 3/4, 3. Uh, I would tend to think he's going to move forward again. And those threes put him, with a forward anticipated move, square in the thick of this. Moonlight, Chris Block, underrated, dangerous barn, I might add. This horse has started at 2, 3, and 4 as well. But let's just look at this year, because at 2 and 3, his best number was as a 2-year-old. He ran a 5. He was pretty slow at 3. Kind of took a step backwards, but at 4, interestingly, something changed. 7.5, 7 3/4, 1.5, 1.5, 2 3/4, 1. He's kind of steadily running those 2s and 1s. I don't know that a forward move is coming, but I tend to think another 2 or 1 is coming, and that kind of puts him right in there. And if he does go forward, I mean, I got to think he's near the head of the class. Rattle and Roll. Rattle and Roll's been running forever. 3, 4, 5, now 6, and doing some world traveling at that as well. He's been a lot of places, including the Middle East. But let's look at his 5 and 6-year-old years. He was fast at 4. At 4, we got a 1.5 negative. He runs back to anything near that. Forget about it. Major player. He's got a couple of 1s, but let's focus on his 5 and 6-year-old years, because I think they're a little bit more relevant in his case. What do we got? At 5, only 2 starts. 3, 0.5. 2 starts only, but 2 fast starts. At 4, with all the world traveling, 2 1/4, 0.5, 5, and then an 8. So what does it tell me? It tells me that those fast races and that travel might have taken a little bit out of this horse. He's coming back off that 8 relatively quickly and hoping to go back to some of those, star-like numbers that he's run, those zeros, even the, 1.5 negative way back when. But I don't see anything suggesting that he's going to do that. I would have thought he'd have run faster last time if that was going to happen than that 8. So I tend to think he's still paying the price for some fast races and some world traveling into the desert, which we know is a little tough at times for certain horses, a lot of horses really, to come back from. Best Actor, been around a long time, been running competitively, was a vet scratch last year at Churchill Downs. He's got 3, 4, 5, now 6-year-old races. He's run quite a few times this year at 6. And we've got 9, 10, 2.5, 8.5, 6 1/4, 2.5, 4 1/4. A little bit of an inconsistent pattern. And his best races are 2s and 2s and change. And while that would put him in the mix, I don't know that he's coming to one of those races right now. He is coming to a better race off the Z pattern that he's kind of developing, but I would call it a little iffy. Capable, but I don't like his pattern enough to say he's one I would back here. Prince of Power is a 2-time vet scratch at 3, which was last year. He's got some fast races this year. 7, 7, 6 1/4, 16 1/4, 7 1/4, 1.5, 1.5. And those two races seem to have really knocked him out because he comes off the 1.5s, runs a 10 1/4, and then a 6. So even if he's going back in the right direction, is he going to go all the way back to those ones? I would tend to doubt that. I think a 3 is much more likely, a 4 much more likely, maybe at best a 2, which would put him in there, but not sold. Dragoon Guard, 12.5 in the lone 2-year-old start at 3, 6, 6, 2.5, 3, 4 1/4. It's an improving kind of horse. At 4, 2.5, 3.5, 2. This is a horse that's still learning. He's got a nice pattern this year, pretty steady with some gradual improvement in the last 2 races. I tend to think his pattern is a forward moving one. Now off handicapping, and I didn't really do the race yet with a fine tooth comb, but he has had some soft trips, so that might have inflated some of his numbers. So we'll be a little bit cautious with him and take a look and make sure I'm correct off that, because again, I haven't dissected the race yet, but off memory, I think I remember some soft, easy on the lead kind of trips for him. Gazzale is interesting because he's a 3-year-old. He's lightly raised, and didn't he give journalism all he could handle in the Haskell at Monmouth? At 2-year-old, he ran a 9.5. He comes back at 3 as a vet scratch at Gulfstream Park, then 5 1/4, 4.5, 0 1/4 at Pimlico, 0 1/4 at Monmouth in the Haskell, 3.5 at Parks. Well, he did regress a little off those 2 very fast races with those paired 0 1/4s, and he's coming back relatively shorter rest than the 2 zeros anyway, at Keeneland. So, I mean, he's definitely at 3 already fast enough to win a race like this. So I got to say he's a contender. And if he bounces back, which there's a chance he could, and that 3 race came at Parks, and we've talked in the past about Parks being a track that can sometimes throw a horse off their number or off their game or off their cycle a little bit, because it's a quirky track that some horses just don't like. So I would tend to think Gazzale is likely sitting on a forward move. Hit Show. This horse has won some big races, so we know he can run when he's in the mood. 2, 3, 4, 5 now, and he's run all the time. But let's look at this year, because he's had a lot of starts. 0 3/4 at the Fairgrounds, 2.5 at Santa Anita, 0 3/4 at Dubai when he wins the Dubai World Cup. 4.5, comes back, doesn't really tank after the trip to Dubai, slows down a little bit, but then says, hey, you know what? I'm all right. 0.5 Mountaineer, and then a 3 last time. Yeah, he's a little bit of an in and outer. Got a little bit of a Z pattern for sure, and has had it all year. So I tend to think he'll maintain that, but he's sitting on one of his forward races. So one of his forward races puts him in the 0 range, maybe even a negative number. So he's kind of a major player off the thoroughbred numbers and patterns. So we'll go back and recap and see if we got another Kappa Kappa in here. 25-1 Kappa Kappa in the Ravens run. What did we say? Dangerous pattern, sneaky pattern, dangerous horse. And I got a lot of messages from people who rode with that and scored. So nice job. Lambeth. We talked about Lambeth. Going forward, regressed off the fast number in the past. A little concern that we may get that regression off the fast number again. Anna Marie, didn't really love the pattern. Bracket Buster did interesting. Probably an overlooked horse in here as well. Those paired twos kind of jump out at you. Dilger, definitely forward moving pattern. Moonlight, uh, steady, right there. Uh, Rattle and Roll was a nay. Best Actor was a nay. Prince of Power was a nay with a what if. Dragoon Guard was a cautious yeah. Gazzale was a yeah, and Hit Show was a yeah, was a yeah. So of everybody, and all the patterns in here, Hit Show, Gazzale, and let me find the other one, and stay with me. Bracket Buster kind of catch my eye. Dilges, got another one. So, we've got some that we could toss and some that are in there. So now we do the past performance handicapping and try and put it all together and see if we can come up with the right one. But I think we eliminated a couple that are on paper at least contenders, and some people will be on. So we'll see what we can do when we kind of crunch everything together. And again, for those of you that come back and are like, well, pick this one, pick that one, pick the other one. These shows are about using Thorograph as a tool and identifying patterns that tell us who's fast, who's getting faster, who's slow, who's getting slower, who's likely to bounce, who's likely to move forward, and things like that. And then we factor that into our handicapping. So it's a little bit of a different kind of show, but it's, taking Thorograph to a new level and helping people try and understand Thorograph. With that, you can get the sheets for the Fayette and any past the wire Thorograph race of the week at Thorograph.com, or you can find it at pastthewire.com and follow the links to Thorograph. Right on the page there's a box. Bang, you hit it, you download the sheets, you enter your email, you get an email with the sheets to download, and you're all set for the Thorograph race of the week. Now, for those of you that have been reaching out and have more questions about Thorograph, we can definitely absolutely set up something where we talk and I can guide anybody or help anybody through any questions or issues they might be having, understanding or following along with me, or just wanting to take their Thorograph game to a new level. So reach out. It's easy enough. Let me know in the comments. Again, I know some of you did last week, but shout it out at me so we could, get it right. And if I can do a Breeders' Cup race or two, I will. I will definitely be applying my Thorograph numbers and pattern analysis to the Breeders' Cup in the seminar, and when I do my handicapping, that's just part of my routine. So if you don't have a reservation yet at our Breeders' Cup seminar, try and make one. I think this is going to be the best one yet, and I think that everybody that attends is going to enjoy it and get something out of it. So. And it's replay, PDF, everything. So, if you're not live, that's fine. You lose absolutely nothing. And we are going to have a live interactive Q&A, which will also have a replay. But if you want to ask any questions, you'll, have your opportunity to do so live, talking directly to me. So with that, check out the Race Lens special for you Race Lens Angles players. They're running a BC 99 special quarterly subscription, $99, which is $200 off their regular price. Sounds like you can't beat that. And hopefully we will see all of you at the seminar. And hopefully we'll get to the Breeders' Cup and see some of you there. Although that tends to be a question mark. So with that, thanks everybody for tuning in. And we shall be back. Ciao for now.
Serious about horse racing or want to improve your game and level of play, or perhaps gain an edge without hours of work, you have to look at pace points. Pace makes the race, and projecting the race flow is invaluable for making smarter wagers. Pace Points is an accurate pace projection tool based on real-time fractions along with intangibles down to things like jockey tendencies and additional factors like post position, track condition, and more. Pace Points will help you identify who will be in front early and which horses will be running fastest late. If a race looks like there is a lot of speed, who will be the most likely leader? These are the types of things Pace Points highlight in an easy-to-read and understand format. If you want a better chance of winning, why wouldn't you want this at your fingertips? Pace Points, learn more, try it out, and have a better grasp of the races.
Sure, bad coffee.
Are they talking about us? Shh. Wait. Are they talking about us? I think I heard Past the Wire. Past the Wire TV. They are talking about us. Often imitated, never duplicated. We are everywhere. Oh yeah, the distaff. I tend to think that the distaff is going to be one of the most wide open races on Saturday this year, especially with the loss of Torpedo Anna. And again, I was hoping she ran because I thought she was a bet against. Even if she won her last race, I thought she was going to be a bet against in the distaff for my own reasons. After watching her campaign, I think she was the beneficiary of some perfect trips and setups, and taking nothing away from her. Her Travers was phenomenal. She ran some great races, but she did in the races that she won get some really, really sweet setups and trips. And I think that may have made her look a little bit better than she really was. Ken McPeak did a great job managing her, showcasing her, calling her the Grizzly Bear, and her showing up on Oaks Day and proving that she could be a Grizzly Bear in the right situation. But as unpopular as this may be, I think she was a little bit overrated, and I think she might have been vulnerable in some big spots. But doesn't matter now. She left it all on the racetrack and is retired. And she did have a great career, so taking nothing away from her. But now we've got a really, really wide open distaff, and I love those races. I wish I would have had more horses to pull from in here, but I don't. We've only got a couple. I don't know if we've got the winner or not, but we've got Gin Gin, Seismic Beauty, Scylla, Nitrogen, and Scottish Lassie. And again, who knows who's going to be in there and how it's going to shape up. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Gin Gin kind of got good late in the game. As a 2-year-old, we got 13 and a quarter, 11 and a quarter, 7 3/4, 12. So typical pattern. Didn't start that fast. Progressed, ran a big race, regressed off it a little bit, came back at 3, repeated her best number with 7 3/4, then tailed 10 3/4, 10 and a half, 20 3/4 at Churchill Downs. Came back this year, didn't start that good, but run a 15 at the fairgrounds, laid off, then got really good. 2.5, repeated the 2.5, 7 at Churchill Downs. So we've got 2 really bad races at Churchill Downs. Maybe she doesn't like it there, but she's got good races there too. So it's hard to say. But then the 2.5 at Keeneland, and now comes in off that 2.5. So little bit of a tricky pattern. She's paired the 2.5s in the past, but then she lays off, comes back, runs the 2.5. I tend to think she may regress a little bit here, coming back quick off that fast race. She did equal her best race. Her best race is that 2.5, and she comes back a little bit fast off it. So I tend to look at her as a possible bounce or regression type of horse, and I don't like that going into a race like this. Seismic Beauty. Seismic Beauty. No starts at 2. At 3, we got 7.25, 7.25. Pairs decent races, not outstanding or great races, but pairs decent races. Then at 4, what do we got? We got 6.25, regresses to a 9.25, but then gets really good. 3, 3, 2. I like it. 3, 3, 2. That steady, gradual climb. I definitely see a forward move here. In my opinion, interestingly, she ran the 2 at Del Mar, which is where they will be running the distaff. Definitely a forward moving pattern. If she goes forward off the 2, 2 points is a 0, 3 points is into the negative numbers, 0 negative, maybe a 1 negative. Definitely a forward moving pattern and definitely a fast race, probably coming from Seismic Beauty. Scylla runs a lot. Didn't run at 2, but certainly started making up for it at 4 and 5. But when she finally ran at 3, she ran fast. She always runs fast. She just doesn't close the deal a lot. But, you know, we had a horse like that on one of the shows recently, too. I forget which Thorograph show it was, but we had a horse that always run fast and just doesn't close the deal. And you know what happened? Whoever it was ran fast and didn't close the deal. Might even been Scylla in another race. What do we got? At 3, we got a 1. First start ever, runs a 1. Hello, look at me. And then regresses off that a little bit, 3.5. Comes back at 4 at Gulfstream, 2, 5.25, 1.5, 1.5, 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1.5. All steady races. Runs a 1.5 at Del Mar last year. Comes back, Churchill Downs, 2. Saratoga, 2.5. Saratoga, 1.5. Saratoga, 1.5. Keeneland, 3. Now running back quick at Del Mar. I mean, there's no reason to think that she's not going to run a 3 or better. Is that going to be enough to win? I don't know. It would have to be better than the 3, one of her better numbers. But again, she runs those numbers and seems not to get the job done. Maybe eventually someday she will. You know, it would certainly be a redeeming race for her in the distaff to finally get it done in one of these big races and it be the Breeders' Cup distaff, because she certainly has the numbers to win a race like this. I got to question whether she's got the heart and the fight to do it, because you know, she's been right there and again just hasn't closed the deal. And there's been different riders on her, different opportunities, different distance. You know, sprint, 2 turns, she's done it all, and just can't seem to deliver that big race on the big stage. The other factor is she's run a lot of those fast races without winning. Now I see 1.5, 1.5, 3. There is also the possibility that Scylla's starting to tail. So you got 2 things to get by with her. A, doesn't like to close the deal, you know, the heart, fight, grit factor. And, you know, B, maybe she's starting to tail. Nitrogen, heck of a 3-year-old this one turned out to be. And she fooled me a little bit, because I originally thought when she run that monster race in the slop at Saratoga that she was really a grass horse and that was an inflated race, but maybe not. At 2, we got 11, 9, 8.25. At 3, we got 9.5, 7, 7, 7, 2, 5.5, 2, 1. This is a 3-year-old that's getting better, that's got a forward-moving pattern, that's coming into her own, and that is very, very eligible to go forward again. You know, I mean, she always showed those flashes, well, at least at 3, but, you know, the last 4 races, you know, 2, she was entitled to regress to that 5.5, but then she come back 2, 1, going forward. She is running back quick. That's a concern, but she's not over raced by any stretch of the imagination. And she's just getting good at the right time. And those are always dangerous. Now, last time she looked like she had it won, and the horse on the inside, Jin Jin, come back and beat her. But, that was then. This is now. We'll see. Scottish Lassie, the next one on the list, at 2, 11, 5 3/4, 8.5. At 3. Didn't go forward. First start out anyway, and I like when they do. But she's got a 10, a 5 3/4, a 0 monster race at Saratoga, and then she tailed and ran a 7.5. I tend to look at her pattern as the Saratoga race was an abnormality, anomaly, out of character kind of effort, and we know she's capable of it under the right circumstances, but I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen in the Breeders' Cup this day at Del Mar. So I tend to think that, we'll see 5, 7, 6, maybe a 4, something like that, which is not going to be fast enough to win, unless she, proves me wrong and fools me and runs that, what do you call it? That 0 race that she does have in her, and that puts her in there as a contender. But, I got to see it to believe it. So there you have the distaff. I didn't know who else to put in there. I probably should have put some other horses in there, but I didn't know who. So this is who we got. And of the ones we got, I would say Nitrogen and Seismic Beauty are the ones that are jumping out at me as far as, the numbers and patterns looking like I like them to look going into a race like this. So we'll come back and we'll talk turf.
Seriously? If you're betting horses and not watching these shows, you gotta be freaking crazy. Capiche?
You're watching Past the Wire TV.
Oh, yeah. The turf is probably, well, in my opinion, the most intriguing race on the card. Yes, the Classic is going to be epic, but the Breeders' Cup Turf is really intriguing in my opinion. Now, mind you, Quipco Champions Day is Saturday at Ascot, and there's horses like Ombudsman that he's set to run on Saturday against Delacroix, who's probably not coming to the Breeders' Cup. I think he's retiring. Minnie Hawk just ran in the Arc, that unbelievable second. I think she's coming. I'm not sure whether she's going to run in the filly and mare turf or the turf against the boys after that race in the Arc. I tend to think she may wind up against the boys, but who knows? And I already, have my eye for a while on a horse in this race that I think is just, at his best, a monster. But it's an intriguing race. Let's see what the numbers tell us. I think this is a race that there's going to be a couple of horses inside the 16th pole that have chances. And then I think there's one that's going to just outkick them. But we'll see what happens. Great, makings of a great edition of the Breeders' Cup Turf, in my opinion. El Cordobes, this is the one, if you remember, fooled me when he jumped up and ran that big race to win wait a minute. I think they sent me the wrong horse. Yeah, I apologize. I do not have the Godolphin El Cordobes horse. Apparently, there's an El Cordobes that was foaled in Kentucky that we have. So we don't have him. So we're going to start with Ombudsman. Oh, well, my bad. I ordered the Thoroughgraphs for the horses, and I didn't specify, and we got a wasted sheet. So, okay, Ombudsman. This is a Godolphin horse trained by John and Thaddy Gosden, not Charlie Appleby. Godolphin, they're all bred. They're all, serious. No starts at 2. At 3, what do we got? We got 7.25, 9, 6, 5. Okay for turf. Not so great for dirt over here in the States, but for turf, first season, okay. Pretty good actually, but at 4, holy shit, excuse my language, got a lot better. 2, 0.75, 1.25, 1.75. Now, running Saturday, then if he runs in, comes for the Breeders' Cup, would be running back awfully quick off a very, very, very big race. So you know he's going to be all in. So let's see what he does Saturday. But you know, taking that out of the equation, this is a very, very serious, fast turf horse with just great numbers: 2, 0.75, 1.25, 1.75. You know, he's steadily, you know, running those 1s and 0s. I would tend to think he would reproduce that. And if he takes to the hard turf course over here, and you would like to think that if they bring him here, he's telling them something that, you know, makes them think that he would like the hard turf course, then, you know, like the Godolphin El Cordobes, whose form I don't have, came here and exploded on a hard turf course that he liked. So in comparison, we'll look at Rebels Romance, who's a Breeders' Cup turf winner, ×2, who we loved in the first race that he won. There's even a promo video of me saying that this is one of the Dolphins' most likely winners. This horse is run all over the world, all over the place. His sheet starts at 4. You don't even have 2 and 3. That's how often this horse is ran. But we'll just look at this year, 7 years old, okay? 2.25, 2.25, 2.75, 2.5, 2.25, 2.25. Every time this horse brings a 2. You go back to last year, 1.75, 0.5, 2, 3.5, 3, 2. He's got that 0.5 last year and 1.75 last year, so might have been a little faster at his best. But I mean, you go back to his 4-year-old year and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 2s in a row and a 0. This horse, I mean, there's no knocking him. I mean, he's probably going to run another 2, which puts him right there. If he goes forward off of that at 7 years old and runs a 1 or a 0, really makes him tough. But interestingly, if he does come and bring that consistent 2, which he's run in every start that he's run at 7, well, Ombudsman's running 1s. Program trading, intriguing horse, long layoff, 2 starts back, and I believe that Chad, this has always been a very talented horse in Chad's barn. I think he's pointing for this race, so I expect a forward move. And you know what? His patterns tell me a forward move is coming. You know, last year at 4, he only had 2 starts, 4, 2.5. This year at 5, off that big layoff, he's got a 4.75, then a 2.5. I think he's coming to a peak race. I think he goes a point or 2, maybe even 3 forward to a 0 negative, and I think that makes him a dangerous horse for the Americans. Tough for the Americans to win this race, but if anybody can, it's Chad. I mean, that goes without saying. And I think he's got a sneaky horse that's going to be a little forgotten and a little under the radar, that's coming in sneaky and dangerous and getting better. And his best probably is fast enough. Gold Phoenix, steady as a rock out in California. We'll go 2 years back. We'll start at 6. He's now 7, like Rebels Romance. He's been around a while. 9, 4.25, 4.5, 4.25, 3.25, 2.75. Comes back at 7. Old man still does it. 4.5, 4, 4, 3, 4. He's a 3-4 steady kind of horse that's very, very dominant out there in California against that competition. He's used to beating up on when things go his way, but I don't think it's fast enough to win this race. And that's about as fast as he's ever been. So I think he's going to be up against it. And I think because of my screw up on El Cordobes, that's all we got for the turf. Oh no, I'm going to come through because that's what we do. We come through. Mini Hawk, the gal. We got her sheet. This is a 3-year-old filly that would be a force in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf against older, and would even be a force in the Breeders' Cup turf against the boys older. Second in the arc, and run a heck of a race. At 2, what do we got? 14 and a half, 13 and 3/4. Not great numbers. Did go forward, but not great numbers. What do we got here? We got at 3, 9, 5, 6 and 3/4, 4, and then the big race in the arc at Longchamp, 2 and 3/4. Now, she would have to go forward again, but 2 and 3/4 off that race in the arc. And you know, other than Enable and maybe a couple of others, a lot of horses running the arc. You know, it's such a tough, grueling race. They don't come back and run good in the Breeders' Cup if they even come. And I don't think the win is coming. I hope he does. Darciz, whatever his name is, but the Aga Khan's, but I don't know that he's coming. But if he does, you know, any horse that can run first or second in the arc is going to be dangerous. But this 3-year-old filly is lightly raced, is getting good, is just oozing class and talent, and it's got to be a little bit, you know, a little. Got to take her seriously. Got to take her seriously if she shows up. So we'll see. And if she shows up in this race, Mini Hawk, definitely dangerous. So stay tuned for more on the Breeders' Cup turf as the field sorts itself out. We know who's going where, who's coming. And, you know, I will be watching glued to the big screen on Saturday morning for Quipco Champions Day, because we may see some clues in a couple of those races about horses that are going to come here on short rest. And I love to look for horses in those races that didn't have things go their way and then come back off short rest, and they have the potential to have things go their way over here. So let's see what happens in that race. And we'll come back. And I think all we got left is this epic classic to take a quick look at. And we did take a Thorograph look at the Breeders' Cup Classic early, about a month ago. But now we'll take a more recent look at the Breeders' Cup Classic by the Thorograph numbers and patterns and see what they reveal. Oh, yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the winner's circle for a very special presentation. Representatives from Handicapping for Horses, along with professional handicapper Jonathan Stetton, are proud to support the work of the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and Old Friends. Accepting the check for the inaugural Handicapping for Horses event this past summer at Saratoga are representatives from the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and Old Friends. Gulfstream Park welcomes Michael Blowen, Jonathan Stetton, Kelly Stovey, Jim Rhodes here this afternoon. Since 2012, the TAA has awarded more than $17.2 million to accredited organizations. Handicapping for Horses looks to make their Saratoga Springs event larger and raise money for Thoroughbreds Aftercare year after year. Once again, thank you to Handicapping for Horses, Jonathan Stetton, and welcome to Old Friends and our friends at the TAA. The Rainbow Six and race number 5 up next.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
in motion, reshaping the sport's greatest tradition, channeling the legends of his line and surpassing them. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners carry his genes. A Golden Son, a Horse of the Year. Another chapter written beneath those iconic spires. Derby dreams fulfilled for the titans of our industry. From authentic to sovereignty, a legacy both real and supreme. Into mischief.
Well, you know I was going to be there anyway, but she's going to be there too, so that's a good thing. We're going to be trying to win, taking some big shots. But back to the matters at hand. The Classic promises to be an epic one. We've got some great 3-year-olds. We've got some solid older horses. We've got forget about it. Just a wide assortment. I did Sovereignty, Fierceness, Sierra Leone, Mind Frame, and Nevada Beach. I thought I had to throw in Nevada Beach because, you know, people are downplaying him to the other 3-year-olds like Sovereignty and Journalism and Baeza. But let me tell you something. Kicking Full Serrano's ass, who won the Breeders' Cup Mile last year easily, and come back at a race under the belt where this horse was on the, off a layoff. I think Nevada Beach has to be taken very seriously off that alone. And I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves for beating older horses. He's the only one of these 3-year-olds that's beat older horses. And it's Bob at Del Mar. So I think that horse deserves a lot of respect. I don't know that he's getting it, but we'll see what the numbers in patent say. You know, everybody that I hear or talk to or see, they like one of 2 horses. They like Sovereignty or they like Fierceness. And that's all I hear. And I love that because, you know, maybe they don't win Sovereignty and Fierceness. So that would be great. And Sovereignty, you know, he's been going hard and steady and winning really easily like a machine all year long. But what do I always say? Those of you that watch the show and follow me and ride with me, horses are not machines. Maybe he's due to throw in a dud. Maybe the traveling out west and the new track might trigger it. Fierceness, we know, loves that track. He had that weird trip when he ducked in and still won. So, you know, we'll see. But let's see what the numbers say and how they shape up on these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horses, and then we'll go from there. Sovereignty at 2, 9.5, 5, 5 3/4. At 3, got a lot better. 1 3/4, 1 3/4, 0, 0, 2.5 negative, 2.5 negative. Monster numbers, monster pattern. Looks like he's actually going to go forward. So the only thing that I say about his pattern that there's nothing about his pattern that says he's not going to go forward. The only thing I'll say is they're not machines. He's got to ship out west, and maybe we see the regression, but there's really nothing in his pattern that says that. And if you want to just isolate the pattern and say strictly pattern, his pattern is a monster. And I wouldn't be surprised if he run a 3 or 4 negative. What do you think of that? And run a monster race. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finally bounces or regresses either. So Sovereignty looks like a monster, looks like everything is going right. But I, being the skeptic that I am, and knowing that he's a racehorse, not a machine, I've always got that little bit of something in me that says, you know what? Maybe this is the day we can beat him. Fierceness, another one that Fierceness is interesting because he kind of went from an in and outer that we all thought had to have things, or many of us thought had to have things his own way. Then we thought he doesn't like it on the inside. And he just keeps saying, you know what? You're all wrong. I could win when I'm in the mood to win. And he has. 2-year-old, always fast. 3.5, 12, 1.5 negative at the Breeders' Cup, at 2-year-old, at Santa Anita way back when. Okay, at 3, 4.5, 3.25 negative, 12 dud, 1 negative, 1.5 negative, 1.5 negative. Very fast at 3. At 4, 3.25 negative off the bench, 1 negative, 1 negative, 2 negative. This horse run 1, 2, 3, 4 negative numbers in a row. Now goes to Del Mar, a track we know he likes. His numbers at Del Mar are 1 negative, 1.5 negative before this. He's another one. 2, 3, 4 negative. Easy. I could see it. I don't see him regressing. I don't see him going the wrong way. I don't see those nicks in the armor that we saw or thought we saw before, where hey, he needs the inside, or hey, if things don't go his way. Nah, fierceness is serious. Sierra Leone, we know he's serious and has been for a long time, and we know he shows up on the biggest of days. He showed up in the Kentucky Derby and could have won it, but for a jump or two, and was right there on the wire. Breeders' Cup Classic, he win it last year. Whitney, which was the early goal, win it. Now the next goal was the Breeders' Cup Classic. Here he is. I personally think he took the worst of what happened in that race at Saratoga, or certainly as bad as any, but that's a subjective matter of opinion and not really for debate here. But let's look at his numbers and patterns. We got, as a 2-year-old, 9, 4 3/4. As a 3-year-old, 4.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.25, 1, 0 3/4, and then bang, when he got that pace set up and peaked, he runs a 4 negative at Del Mar to win the Classic. Fastest race of anybody in here. If he repeats that, those others are going to have to jump forward to contend with him if he repeats that. And he may. This year, Fairgrounds, what do we got? We got a 0 3/4. Churchill Downs, 1.25 negative. Whitney, 3 negative. Comes back 1.5 negative number. Now fresh going into Del Mar. Looks like he's going to go forward. Didn't have the best of trips last time. I think with a serious pace like we had last time, Sierra Leone is going into the Breeders' Cup Classic with a very dangerous pattern and with numbers fast enough to win this race without question. Mind frame. As good as Mind frame is, and he's very good, he's going to have to run a little faster. And he may. No starts at 2, at 3, 0 3/4, 4, 0 3/4, 0 3/4. That was at 3. I'm sorry. At 4, 0 3, 0 3/4, 0 3/4, 0.5 negative. Loses the rider last time out. Well, I guess he had it the worst of anybody last time because he actually lost the rider. But now comes back off of that fiasco, and his numbers are going the right way. He's got a 0.5 negative. Probably going to go forward again, and that puts him, 1, 2, maybe 3 negative right in there. But he's going to have to go forward again. He hasn't run a race yet fast enough to win this, where some of these others have. So he's one that you're taking on the come. He's got a pattern that suggests he's going to do it, but again, you're taking him on the come as opposed to those that are already proven they can run that fast. Nevada Beach. Am I right to put him in here, or am I wrong? We got nothing at 2, but at 3 we got what? We got 6 1/4, we got 4, we got 3.5, we got 1 3/4 negative. Like Sovereignty, unbelievable pattern, gets better every time. And I don't, this is a truly remarkable pattern, because it's not that slow, steady progression that I like. It's actually a little better than that. It's progression, but not those big jumps that I say, that scares me a little bit. But it's not that like slow climb either. It's like bang, 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 bang. How good am I? Nobody knows. I love this pattern when you see him. This is the pattern of a horse that just hasn't bottomed out yet, and you just don't know how good he can be. And off a 1 3/4 negative, he can go to a 2, 3, 4 negative like that, especially for Bob, especially out west in his own backyard in California. So Nevada Beach, another one, very dangerous. So, how we're going to have to attack this classic, and we'll do it for the seminar and we'll do it for our wagering, is we're going to have to really, really look at the pace, who's going to be running early, and how much is that going to weaken them, and who's going to be running late, and who's going to be running fastest enough to win late, and how the track is playing. Really going to have to take some notes and delve deep into the PPs, and more so delve deep into the pace, because look what the pace did last year for Sierra Leone. The pace makes the race. We know that saying, and the classic looks like a race where that's really going to be like paramount. So we're going to have to handle that like what? A well-oiled machine. And we will do so. So, all right. Thanks for watching the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if I can get a race in by the Thorograph numbers and patterns, a full race, let me know in the comments who you want it to be. And I'll try and do the race that most people ask for. If I can do a race, please don't hold me to it, because it's a busy, busy, busy week. And a lot of my attention is going to go into really preparing and studying for the seminar, and just finding some really, really good shots to take and some really, really good shots to bet against. So that's what we're going to really, be focused on. And I'm going to shy away from everything that takes my focus away from that. But I will try and do one of these shows for all of you. If you really want it, let me know in the comments. Yeah, John, try and get it done. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know if we do it, what race you want, and the race that wins the vote. If you even want another race, that'll be the one that I will try and do. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope to see all of you at the seminar. It's going to be a PDF that you can print, download, and whatnot with everything written on it. But it's also going to have some links to video, and we are going to have a live Q&A for those that have seats in the seminar or get the PDF. You're going to have a private link for the live Q&A where you could ask me anything about any horse or anything that I put on the PDF. So, like I said, well-oiled machine is what we're going to try and have and try and do. And hopefully we could do some damage out there. So that's a wrap. The Thorograph race of the week this week, I think, is the Ravens Run at Keeneland. We'll see how that shapes up. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate all of your time. Ciao, ciao. Oh, yeah.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, head into the final front. Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Hey, I'm Juliet. When it comes to the sport of kings, I only trust one source. Past the Wire TV.
Nobody does it better.